Middle ear. Middle ear is also known as tympanic cavity or tympanum. It is a narrow air-filled space situated in the petrous part of temporal bone between the external ear and internal ear. Shape of middle ear. The shape of middle ear resembles to a cube. Its lateral wall, which is formed by tympanic membrane, and medial wall, which is directed towards internal ear, these are larger in size, and other walls, that is anterior, which is cut in this diagram, and posterior, which is visible in this red color, superior and inferior, these walls are narrow. Its vertical diameter, that is from superior to inferior side, and anterior-posterior diameter from anterior wall to posterior wall, these are almost same, that is about 15 millimeters. But the lateral and medial walls, these are concave, and these make the cavity of middle ear compressed in the center. The distance between lateral wall and medial wall, it is about 6 millimeters near the roof, 2 millimeters in the center, and 4 millimeters near the floor. So in the center, the cavity is maximum narrow. Parts of tympanic cavity. The cavity of middle ear, it is subdivided into two parts. One is tympanic cavity proper. It is the part which lies opposite to the tympanic membrane. So it is this part. This portion is tympanic cavity proper, and one part lies above the level of tympanic membrane. This is known as epitympanic recess. Epitympanic recess is present above the level of the tympanic membrane. Communications of tympanic cavity. So in this diagram, we can find out this is the area of the middle ear cavity. This is anterior wall, this is anterior wall, and this is the posterior wall of tympanic cavity. Then through the anterior wall, this cavity communicates with pharyngotympanic tube or eustachian tube with the nasopharynx. Eustachian tube in its medial end, it opens at the nasopharynx area, so it communicates with nasopharynx anteriorly. Through the posterior wall, it communicates, middle ear cavity communicates with mastoid antrum and mastoid ear cells. There is presence of an opening between middle ear cavity and mastoid antrum, that is known as adductus to mastoid antrum. This is the view of disarticulated temporal bone, and if we see the interior of skull, interior view of skull, we can find out this is petrous temporal bone, and in this diagram the interior of petrous temporal is shown. So lateral side, we can see in this yellow color, this is external ear, external acoustic meatus. Then this blue color structure is the middle ear, and this structure again slightly light green in color, this is internal ear. So here we can find out connection of this middle ear cavity. Anteriorly, this is the pharyngotympanic tube or the auditory tube, and posteriorly here we can find out again these are the mastoid ear cells, and mastoid ear cells, these are connected with middle ear cavity posteriorly through the mastoid antrum. This is the diagram of ear in cut section in a horizontal plane. Here we can find out this is external acoustic meatus. This is middle ear cavity. This narrow cavity is middle ear cavity. Tympanic membrane is visible, and its middle ear cavity's anterior communication with eustachian tube and posterior communication with the mastoid ear cells and the mastoid antrum. So here we can find out middle ear cavity, it is posteriorly communicating with mastoid antrum. Mastoid antrum is an air-filled space present in petrous part of temporal bone, which communicates posteriorly with the mastoid air cells, and anteriorly it communicates with epitympanic recess of middle ear cavity. So the area of communication between middle ear cavity and mastoid antrum, that is in the form of a narrow opening, that is known as adductus to mastoid antrum, which is present in this area. Middle ear, along with its anterior and posterior connections, resembles to shape of a pistol. So this trigger portion and the area above it indicates the middle ear cavity, and this barrel area or outlet area, it resembles to its anterior communication with the auditory tube, and then the sloping area, it indicates the adductus to mastoid antrum. This area indicates mastoid antrum, and handle, the lower portion of handle, it indicates the mastoid process. The mucous membrane which is lining the interior of this middle ear cavity, it is covering or investing all the contents which are present in the cavity, and also form several vascular folds within the cavity, and these folds project into the cavity and give it honeycombed appearance. Boundaries of middle ear cavity. So first is roof. So in this diagram, as we already know, this is middle ear cavity, and which whole ear is present within the petrous part of temporal bone. So the part of petrous temporal bone which overlies this middle ear cavity, that is known as tegmen tympani. So it is in the form of a thin plate of bone covering the middle ear cavity. And in front of this petrous temporal bone, this area is the middle cranial fossa. So this tegmen tympani bone, it separates the middle ear cavity from rest of the middle cranial fossa. So here, this thin plate of bone covering the middle ear cavity is known as tegmen tympani, and above it lies the middle cranial fossa. So it is separating both the cavities. So in this diagram we can find out this is middle ear cavity. Anterior connection is with the tympanic pharyngotympanic tube. Posterior connection is with the mastoid antrum and mastoid air cells, and this is the roof portion of it. So this bony plate known as tegmen tympani forming the roof of it, and also forms the roof of canal of tensor tympani muscle. So here we can find out two canals. One is canal for tensor tympani and one is the canal of auditory tube itself. Both are separated by this processus cochleariformis. So this canal for tensor tympani, it is also covered by this thin plate of bone, tegmen tympani. Lower part of this tegmen tympani bone, there is presence of a fissure known as petrosquamous fissure, and this fissure in case of young children, it is still unossified part, and there is a connection, direct connection between the middle ear cavity and the middle cranial fossa, which contains brain, and around that meninges are present. So meninges come in direct contact with middle ear cavity in case of young children, and in the adult, when bones get ossified, the suture got complete and separates the middle cranial fossa, which is present above, from the middle ear cavity. Next come to floor or jugular wall. So floor is formed by a thin plate of bone which separate the middle ear cavity from the superior bulb of internal jugular vein. So this plate, it is a part of temporal bone. Near the medial aspect of this floor, there is presence of a canaliculus, tympanic canaliculus, which transmits a branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, that is tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, which supplies the medial wall of middle ear. Next is the anterior wall of the middle ear cavity. So middle ear cavity is having narrow anterior wall because lateral wall and medial wall come closer to each other, and also roof portion, roof that is formed by tegment tympani, it descends downwards and make the anterior wall narrow. Uppermost part of the anterior wall bears an opening that is for this is canal for tensor tympani muscle. Next is middle part is having an opening for auditory tube, and then inferior part of wall is formed by a thin plate of bone which forms the posterior wall of the carotid canal. This is the another diagram of anterior boundary of the middle ear cavity. So this is middle ear cavity. It is bounded anteriorly from above downwards by this is canal for tensor tympani muscle. So here we can also see the muscle which is present in this canal. Next is processus cochleariformis. This is a bony projection. Then below that lies the auditory tube or pharyngotympanic tube, and more inferiorly lies the thin plate of bone which is forming posterior wall of the carotid canal. So this is thin plate of bone which separates the middle ear cavity from internal carotid artery. So this bony part, it separates two canals and it turns backwards from anterior wall to the medial wall of the middle ear cavity, and here it's posterior and it forms a pulley around which the tendon of tensor tympani muscle, it takes a lateral curve and proceed further for its insertion on the handle of the malleus bone. So handle of malleus bone is not visible in this diagram. It is cut in this diagram. So this is the diagram showing different boundaries of middle ear cavity: roof, floor, anterior wall, posterior wall, medial wall, and lateral wall. In this diagram, it is cut to open the middle ear cavity. So let us come to posterior wall only. Posterior wall, in its superior most part, there is presence of an opening, or that is known as adductus to mastoid antrum, through which epitympanic recess communicates with the mastoid or tympanic antrum. Second structure is fossa incudis, which is a depression lodging the short process of incus bone that is not visible in the diagram. So in the diagram we can see the structure of incus bone. It is having this short process which is projecting backwards towards the posterior wall of middle ear cavity. So this projection produces a depression on posterior wall of middle ear cavity. A small conical projection is also visible in the lower part of the posterior wall at the junction of posterior wall and the medial wall. This is known as pyramid. At the apex of this pyramid, there is passage of tendon of muscle stapedius, which is also a muscle of middle ear cavity. Near the pyramid, there is presence of posterior canaliculus for the passage of chorda tympani nerve. So through which chorda tympani nerve, which is a branch of facial nerve, this is facial nerve which is running upwards. So it gives a branch chorda tympani which enter into middle ear cavity through this posterior canaliculus. Lateral wall of middle ear cavity, it is also known as membranous wall because it is formed by tympanic membrane and it separates the external acoustic meatus from middle ear cavity. So lateral wall is mainly formed by tympanic membrane. along with the tympanic ring and sulcus. It is the part of bone in which this tympanic membrane is lodged. Some part of the lateral wall, it is also formed by squamous part of temporal bone that is present in the region of this epitympanic recess. So this is the diagram of lateral wall of the middle ear cavity. In relation to this lateral wall, we can find out small apertures which are 2 in number for artery and nerve. So this is the area of the tympanic notch, to which the anterior ligament of malleus bone is attached, and this is the anterior process of the malleus bone in this area to which this ligament is attached. There is also presence of pituotympanic fissure in this area, through which passes the tympanic branch of maxillary artery for the supply of the tympanic membrane. Anterior canaliculus or aperture for the chorda tympani nerve also lies in the fissure or just in front of the fissure. So from here the chorda tympani nerve leaves the middle ear and passes to the or emerge at the base of the skull. Next comes to medial wall, which is visible here in front. So medial wall separates the middle ear cavity from internal ear, which is present next to this middle ear cavity. So first structure here we can see is promontory, which is a round bulging produced by first turn of cochlea. It is grooved by tympanic plexus. Second structure is fenestra vestibuli or oval window, present posterior superior to promontory. It leads into vestibule of internal ear and it is closed by footplate of stapes bone. Next is fenestra cochlea, that is also known as round window. It is present posterior inferior to promontory. It opens into scala tympani of cochlea and it is closed by secondary tympanic membrane. Prominence of facial canal is visible in relation to medial wall. So it is the passage of facial nerve. Facial nerve is descending downwards from above. Then it leaves through the posterior wall and descend further downwards to exit the skull through stylomastoid foramen. Prominence of lateral semicircular canal is visible above the facial canal. Then sinus tympani, it is the depression present behind the promontory opposite the ampulla of posterior semicircular canal. So in this diagram we can find out this is fenestra vestibuli, fenestra cochlea, then canal of facial nerve, prominence of lateral semicircular canal, promontory with tympanic plexus. In this structure of ear we can also find out here, that is, this is promontory with tympanic plexus. This is oval window which is closed by the footplate of stapes bone. This is round window. This is prominence of facial canal. Facial nerve is visible here, which is entering into the facial canal, and this is the prominence of lateral semicircular canal. So this diagram gave us a good view of certain structures of internal ear which produce their impression on the medial wall of middle ear cavity. So first structure is cochlea, which is rounded in shape, and the first turn of this cochlea, it produces an impression of promontory on the medial wall. Second structure is vestibule, The opening of this vestibule is known as oval window, which is closed by the footplate of this small stapes bone. Third structure is semicircular canal. So there are three semicircular canals, anterior, posterior and lateral one. So lateral semicircular canal, it also produces its impression on the medial wall of middle ear cavity. Lateral semicircular canal is more clearly visible here, which is bulging towards the medial wall, and round window is also visible in this area. So these are the impressions on medial wall. Next are the contents of middle ear cavity. So middle ear cavity contain three bones, malleus, incus and stapes bone, two muscles. This is tensor tympani muscle and this is the ligament of stapedius muscle. Then ligaments of these ear ossicles which are holding them in the middle ear cavity, blood vessels which supply the middle ear cavity, and nerves of the middle ear cavity, that is called a tympani nerve and tympanic plexus, and rest of the free space is filled by air. Next comes to bones of the ear, also known as ear ossicles. These are malleus, incus and stapes. First bone is malleus bone. So the meaning of word malleus in Latin language is hammer. So as the shape of this bone, it resembles to hammer, so its name is malleus. It is largest bone out of the three bones and the most laterally placed. It is having rounded head which articulates posteriorly with the body of the incus bone. Head is having its attachment with two ligaments, superior and lateral ligaments. Its neck lies opposite to the pars flaccida portion of the tympanic membrane, and medially there is passage of the chorda tympani nerve. Anterior process, it is connected to petrotympanic fissure which is present here with the help of this anterior ligament. In this diagram we can see the side view of the malleus. This is side view of malleus bone and this is the posterior view of the malleus bone. So in side view, when we see, this is head area, and on the posterior aspect of head we can see this is a facet for incus bone, and on seeing this side view we can see the anterior process. So this is a small spine-like process present near the area of neck. Next is lateral process. Lateral process is better visible when we see the bone from its posterior aspect. So it is an extension or it is a projection from the upper end of handle. So this is handle of the or manubrium part, handle of the malleus bone. From its upper part extends a small projection known as lateral process. It provides attachment to anterior and posterior malleolar folds, and between these two folds lies the pars flaccida portion of the tympanic membrane. Then handle of the malleus, it is also known as manubrium. It extends downwards, backwards and medially and is attached to the upper half of the tympanic membrane. Second bone is incus bone. It is also known as anvil because it resembles a tool, anvil, which is used by blacksmiths. So upper part of the incus bone resembles to this tool known as anvil. Body of incus is large and it bears an articular surface on its anterior aspect that articulates with the facet present on posterior aspect of head of the malleus bone. It is having a long process which projects downwards just behind and parallel to the handle of malleus bone. Its tip bears a lentiform nodule which is directed medially and it articulates with the head of stapes. Third bone is stapes. It is the smallest bone. Its shape resembles to a stirrup. Stirrup is a metal frame which holds the foot of horse rider and provides support to it. It is having a small head. Head bears a concave facet which articulates with the lentiform nodule of the incus bone. A narrow portion, neck, which provide insertion to thin tendon of the stapedius muscle, and two limbs. Anterior limb is shorter and posterior is longer in length. Two limbs diverge at the neck area and get attached to the foot plate of the bone. Foot plate is also known as foot piece or base. It is oval in shape and fit into the fenestra vestibuli or oval window of internal ear. Joints of ossicles. Malleus and incus bone, these articulate to form incudo-malleolar joint. It is a saddle type of joint. And second joint is incudo-stapedial joint formed between the incus and stapes bone. It is a ball and socket type of joint. Both joints are synovial joints and are covered by capsular ligament. Ligaments which support these bones, these are three ligaments supports the malleus bone, one ligament support incus as well as stapes bone. So here we can find out these three ligaments attached to the malleus bone. These ligaments are helpful in stabilizing the ossicles. These ligaments are very much elastic in nature. Muscles of middle ear. There are two muscles present in the middle ear. One is tensor tympani muscle and another is stapedius muscle. Tensor tympani muscle lies in a canal. It is a bony canal that opens at its lateral end in the middle ear, and at the medial end it ends on the base of the skull. Auditory tube lies just below this bony canal for the tensor tympani muscle. This is auditory tube. Tensor tympani muscle arises from the bony part of this canal, also from the cartilaginous part of the auditory tube, and also from base of the skull. The muscle ends in a tendon which reaches the medial wall. This is medial wall of the middle ear, and here it make a sharp bend around the processus cochleariformis. It then passes laterally across the middle ear cavity and reaches the malleus bone, where it insert into the handle of the malleus bone. Tensor tympani muscle, it is supplied by a mandibular nerve. Second muscle is stapedius muscle. So here we can find out a white color structure. This is the tendon of stapedius muscle. Stapedius muscle lies in a bony canal that is related to posterior wall of middle ear cavity. So this is posterior wall of middle ear cavity. There is presence of a canal in which lies the stapedius muscle. In the lower part, the bony canal of stapedius muscle, it is in continuation with the canal of facial nerve. So this vertical canal of facial nerve and stapedius muscle canal, both are in continuation. In this area we can see this is the tendon of the Stapedius muscle, it is entering into the pyramid and emerging at its apex part. So the muscle fibers of stapedius muscle arise from this bony canal. Then these leave the bony canal and turns into a tendon. The tendon emerge at the apex of the pyramid. Then the tendon turns towards the stapes bone, which is present in this oval window, in the area of the oval window, and the tendon of stapedius insert in the neck of the stapes bone. So in the close-up view of the picture, we can see this is the bony canal of facial nerve. In this bony canal arises the muscle fibers of stapedius muscle. So after its origin from the bony canal, muscle fibers, these are turning towards the middle ear cavity and reaches the cavity by emerging from this pyramid, conical projecting part from the medial wall. This is pyramid. From the apex of pyramid emerging the tendon of stapedius muscle and inserting in the neck of stapes bone. So this is stapes bone, which is visible here. Here lies the neck portion of it, and very small tendon of this stapedius muscle, it is inserting in the neck of the stapes bone. Stapedius muscle is supplied by branch from the facial nerve. So as a muscle lies in close relation to facial nerve, this nerve give a branch for the supply of this muscle. The action of these muscles is to dampen down or decrease the intensity of high-pitched sound waves that enter into the ear, and these muscles help to protect the internal ear by decreasing the intensity of sound waves. Eye of middle ear. Middle ear receive its blood supply from various arteries. First artery is the anterior tympanic branch of maxillary artery, which enters into the middle ear through the pituotympanic fissure and provide its supply to various structures present in the middle ear. Second artery is the branch of stylomastoid artery. So stylomastoid artery runs in the stylomastoid foramen. Further, it gives a branch known as posterior tympanic branch, which enters into the tympanic cavity and supplies structures. And the stylomastoid artery itself, it is a branch of posterior auricular artery. Next are petrosal and superior tympanic branches of middle meningeal artery, which are entering into the middle ear cavity through the superior aspect, superior-posterior aspect. Then branches of ascending pharyngeal artery supplies the middle ear, and tympanic branches of internal carotid artery. So this is internal carotid artery. It is giving various branches which enters into the middle ear and supply its contents. Venous blood of middle ear cavity, it is drained by superior petrosal sinus. Superior petrosal sinus is present along the superior border of the petrous temporal bone. So this venous sinus, it ultimately drains into the transverse sinus. And second venous channel which is draining the venous blood of middle ear cavity is the pterygoid plexus of veins present in infratemporal fossa. Lymphatic drainage is done by preauricular lymph nodes and retropharyngeal lymph nodes. Nerve supply of middle ear. Nerve supply to the middle ear cavity is provided by tympanic plexus of nerves which is present over the promontory. It is formed by tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve and also superior and inferior corticotympanic nerves which are arising from sympathetic plexus around the internal carotid artery. So this is internal carotid artery. It is covered by a network of nerves. From this network, two nerves reaches this promontory area and forms a network along with the glossopharyngeal nerve. Tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve supplies the mucous membrane of middle ear, auditory tube, mastoid antrum, and mastoid ear cells. Superior and inferior corticotympanic nerves, these are vasomotor to the mucous membrane of the middle ear cavity. Vasomotor means these control the supply of blood to the mucous membrane. Functions of middle ear cavity. Middle ear cavity transmits sound waves from the external ear to the internal ear. It also transforms airborne vibrations from the tympanic membrane to liquid-borne vibrations in the internal ear. Means the type of vibrations is changed in the middle ear cavity. These vibrations are first in the form of air borne vibrations, and when these reaches the internal ear, these got converted into the liquid borne vibrations. Then ear ossicles are responsible for increasing the intensity of the sound waves, but the frequency it remains unchanged. Next is mastoid antrum. Mastoid antrum is a small circular air-filled space present in the posterior part of petrous temporal bone. Its size is at birth time, it is same as that of size of this antrum in adults. It is about 1 centimeter in diameter. That is, it is having the size of a small pea. Its capacity is about 1 milliliter. Next is boundaries. Superior boundary, it is formed by tegmen tympani. So tegmen tympani here, which is forming the roof of this middle ear cavity, it is also forming the superior boundary of this mastoid antrum, and beyond it temporal bone of the cerebrum is present. Inferiorly, mastoid process is there, which contains mastoid air cells. Mastoid air cells means air spaces are present in the mastoid bone. So middle ear cavity is this one, and this is mastoid antrum. Mastoid antrum and middle ear cavity both communicate at the adytus to the mastoid antrum. Adytus means an opening. So this mastoid antrum, it is related anteriorly to the epitympanic recess of middle ear cavity, and with that it communicates with the help of adytus. This adytus portion, it is related medially to the superior and lateral semicircular canals. So these are the structures, these are semicircular canals which are visible here, and also very close to these semicircular canals, or we can say posterior aspect of the middle ear cavity, there is passage of facial nerve which is not visible here, but in other diagrams we have studied about that. Facial nerve is related to the adytus. So in this diagram here we can see this is mastoid antrum, this blue color structure. Mastoid antrum is there, and behind it lies the mastoid air cells. So posterior relations of this mastoid antrum are, it is related to sigmoid sinus. This is venous channel present in the skull, sigmoid sinus. So this mastoid antrum is separated from sigmoid sinus with the help of this thin plate of bone. And beyond this thin plate of bone also, in this area, this is the area of posterior cranial fossa where cerebellum lies. So it is also related posteriorly to the cerebellum. And superiorly, this mastoid antrum is covered by bone known as tegmen tympani, that is a part of petrous temporal bone itself. And then beyond this, means in front of this tegmen tympani part, this is the middle cranial fossa. Middle cranial fossa contains the cerebrum, and in this area, this is temporal part of the bone, and here lies the temporal lobe of cerebrum. So temporal of cerebrum, lobe of cerebrum comes in superior relation, and tegmen tympani also come in superior relation to the mastoid antrum. Mastoid antrum is related medially to, so this is medial aspect, here it is related to the petrous temporal bone, and laterally it is related to, this is lateral bone, that this is the squamous part of temporal bone. Bone is same, that is temporal bone, but here lies the squamous part and here lies the petrous part of the temporal bone. And in the skull, from lateral aspect, if we see, this area, lateral boundary of the mastoid antrum corresponds to the suprameatal triangle. This area is the suprameatal triangle. So in disarticulated temporal bone, this area is this is meatus, external acoustic meatus, and above lies the suprameatal triangle. So medial to it or deeper to it, this suprameatal triangle lies the mastoid antrum. So the width of this squamous temporal bone, it is very less at the time of birth. It is about 2 millimeters wide only, or thick only, and the thickness, it increases every year at the rate of 1 millimeters. So it reaches at its maximum width, that is about 12 to 15 millimeters at the age of about 12 to 15 years. Mastoid air cells, these are the numerous intercommunicating air spaces which are present in the mastoid process. These are variable in number. Sometimes these are few in number and remain confined to upper part of the mastoid process, and sometimes large in number and they may extend beyond the mastoid process into the squamous temporal bone or petrous part of the temporal bone. Blood supply to the mastoid antrum and air cells. So behind the middle ear cavity, this is mastoid antrum, and below lies the mastoid air cells. So this part is also receiving its blood supply from the posterior tympanic artery. Posterior tympanic artery supplies this area. So it is a branch of stylomastoid artery, this is stylomastoid artery running in the stylomastoid foramen. So this artery gives posterior tympanic branch for the supply of this area. Venous drainage is done by this sigmoid sinus, S-shaped sinus, mastoid emissary vein. Emissary veins are the small veins which connect extracranial veins to intracranial veins, and also posterior auricular vein. This is posterior auricular vein, and by post-auricular lymph nodes and also the upper deep cervical lymph nodes. Nerve supply is done to this area. It is given by this tympanic plexus, which is formed by tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve and meningeal branch of the mandibular nerve. Inflammation of the middle ear cavity, it is known as otitis media, and this leads to accumulation of fluid or pus within the middle ear, that is known as chronic suppurative otitis media or CSOM. So the pus from this middle ear cavity may extend in any direction. It may discharge into external ear following rupture of this tympanic membrane. It may erode the roof of the cavity and spread upwards, reaching into the middle cranial fossa, causing meningitis and brain abscess. It may erode the floor and spread downwards, causing infection or thrombus formation in the sigmoid sinus or in the internal jugular vein, and it may spread backwards, causing mastoid abscess. So in chronic suppurative otitis media, persistent discharge of pus is there through the ear, and it is more common in children than in adults. It most commonly occur due to spread of infections through the auditory tube from throat. So from the middle ear cavity, this pus, it may spread, or infection may spread to the mastoid process and leads to the formation of mastoid abscess. Next condition is otosclerosis, in which the fusion between the adjacent bones of the ear it take place. So because of fusion, these bones can't move with the air vibrations and leads to deafness. Next is hyperacusis. Hyperacusis means listening to high volume of the sound. So this condition arises because of paralysis of the stapedius muscle. The muscles of the ear, these are responsible to dampen down or slow down the pitch of the sound, intensity of the sound vibrations. So when this function get lost, the sound intensity of sound is not decreased and patient hear sound which is in too high volume. In cases of fracture of the middle ear cavity, fracture of this petrous part of bone also take place, and rupture of the eardrum. So in this condition, bleeding occur through the ear along with discharge of CSF.